what are we, 7th? I didn't even look up the date. It's Friday, April 7th. We're going to be talking about how do we push the whole process of the sales process over the line, get that close. We've talked about this lots of other times, but I think we're going to take a little different view of it, about the whole process right here on the High Five. But the real thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in the two sexiest men in sales across the whole world. On the far left-hand side, from Glenwood Springs, Colorado. Last week, I was sitting in his office getting equipment set up that didn't work this morning because I suck at IT, apparently. Mr. Danny Shard. Danny, how are you, sir?
I'm doing good, Nate. I swear I didn't kick it. I didn't do anything. I think you're pretty good at IT.
It worked
But
perfectly the
nevertheless,
couple times there that we used it while I was there. But the one time, he's got a brilliant new computer camera that's going to make him look as sexy as he truly is. Sometime, hopefully by next week. I think it's the cord. We shipped him a new cord. Yeah, whatever. Mister in the middle. Well, we always refer to him as the sexiest man alive because, well, he's won that 4 times, on the People magazine. Matthew McConaughey has nothing on him. Mr. Brian Linke, how are you, Brian?
Alive, Nate, is a little stretch, but I have been called sexy in the past by more than one. So, thank you. But yes, I'm great. Fridays are always great, right? Great week so far for the paper techers, and we appreciate all our agents, our partners out there, and let's keep it going.
Yeah, we have, as we do this live, we're having some tech issues across the payment sphere. Then those are things that happen. So we're going to keep this as a quick episode. But gentlemen, I want to ask you this. You guys have both been in sales for, multiple decades. When you started selling, how were you taught to close, to get to that place where you said yes or no at the end? How were you taught when you first started selling? Brian, I'm going to start with you.
First one who talks loses.
Okay. So for you
Like
is
that,
yeah.
I'll never forget it because nobody likes to talk more than I do, and I used to joke about the fact that I could never abide by that, but that's supposedly a sales rule. I used to joke about the fact that I would just keep talking until I just wore them down to a nub, but yeah, I mean, I think that's just the basic sales 101 rule: is the first one who talks loses.
So when you're in those situations, do you just simply you say, "Hey, are you ready to start business with me?" However that closing phrase is, and then you just wait, and if they don't say anything, you just keep staring at them? What's your technique to not talking?
That's a bad question, Nate, because you never want to ask a closed-ended question like, "Are you ready to start processing with me?" That's a yes or a no, right? And then so if they say no, then it's no, and then we got an awkward silence, right? You want to figure out, now we have Google. Okay, back in the day there was no Googling. Open-ended questions. So you want to make sure you're asking questions that require an answer more than yes or no.
So how about something like this? What's causing you to not do business with me right now? Is that a good question?
There you go. I like that. Yeah, that's a very good question. And those are things that you can, again, with Google sales, there's all kinds of sales books out there, and but back when there wasn't, there were always books, but like those were the kinds of things that we were told, like, asking open-ended questions. First one who talks loses. I think those are just 2 basic rules that I don't know. I think for forever that they'll be forever and ever, right? Because and the first one who talks loses. I think more is for more phone sales than anything, right? Because you don't want that. It's like no, and then awkward silence, and then the guy's like, okay, I got to go. Click.
So, Danny, how about 18-year-old Danny? I think if I remember the story right, you're running around closing some deals for $50 spiffs. You don't even know what residuals are at that point. You're just finishing up and helping getting merchants running up on credit card terminals. What were you taught at how to close that deal when you were going into those merchants when you were first started out?
yeah, and even back then wasn't even closing deals. It was more making introductions, being the, I guess the segue to the deal, right? So kind of starting the conversations, being the savvy college kid that could get in and just start talking and open the door, so to speak, to my friend's dad at the time, who was the closer. But I did get to sit in a few of his conversations, and it was awesome getting to watch him. I mean, he was a true expert. He was a true professional. And so he would get in and he would kind of take over the conversation, right? Merchant services is a different animal, right? And a lot of times these merchants just need to kind of be explained how it works, but also be, shoved in the proper way of what's going to be best for them in their business. And in a professional way. And it was great watching him do it. And you're right, like Brian said, and Brian taught me that, you gotta, first one who talks loses, and you can't ask an open-ended question. And as I look back on some of those experiences, I don't think I ever heard him ask that. And that was kind of my first introduction into sales, right? He was always asking, when can I come back and get the paperwork signed? Or is now a good time to get the paperwork signed, or something like that, right? So it was always about driving the conversation forward to where it was difficult. They would almost have to pivot away from the conversation to say no, or to say something that was negative, or that might be holding them back. So it's a true art, the way that you can kind of guide these conversations and drive these conversations, even when you're just sitting back and listening to the merchant's needs.
So Nate, hold on one second. When I was in the long distance business, I was trained also. When you're selling an intangible product, and what we do is, I mean, it's intangible, right? I mean, you can't really, you can't kick it, you can't pick it up, you can't hold it. I mean, I guess you could hold the terminal, but as far as like the product, the services that we sell, it's an intangible product, and the advantage you have by selling that is you can paint a picture in someone's mind of exactly what they're getting, and you can steer that conversation that way, and they can start thinking of some of the things that they can do with the money that you're saving them on cash discounting and things like that, upgrading their restaurant, things like that. So by selling an intangible, I think that's an advantage in today's day.
What do you think about, gentlemen, about this concept of saying, obviously in the cash discount world, we say, hey, we can save you $4,500 a year, $9,000 a year, depending on their volumes and what their current rates are, and asking a question, something like, so what would you do with that extra $9,000 in the next 12 months? What do you think about, let's come up with some questions. Do you think that's a good question? And then the follow-up is, okay, well, let's get you signed up because that's what you're going to do with this $9,000.
I think that's a great thing to ask or to say. I mean, it's you're really trying to package it together, and whenever you put it annually, especially when you're talking programs like cash discount, and the numbers are so much higher than savings on traditional pricing, I think you need to do that, right? Because you're trying to really show some material to it. And whenever you're talking to merchant, even a small, medium-sized merchant that's doing $10,000 to $20,000 a month, and you're saving them, say $3,000, $5,000, $10,000 a year in credit card processing fees, that's massive, right? To some, that's a single month's volume. That's huge, and I think putting it into that perspective really opens their eyes and makes them see, wow, this is significant savings over time. I need to take advantage of this opportunity.
Brian, I often say it this way. It's the visualization. What would you do with that $9,000? What would you do with the extra 3 hours a day that you're going to have because you are spending less time doing your accounting, or less time managing your staff because you put this point of sale system in, or because you're not struggling with managing orders because it's going faster? To me, it's that visualization and inviting them in to see themselves using your product, using your service, and winning because of it. How do you paint that picture? Because I've watched you do this, getting to watch you hang out with the guys up at the paper in Milford, Indiana, and things like that. You are a master at helping them tell stories that help them see this is what life will be when you're with me, because it's going to be better. How do you do that? How do you paint that picture?
Well, again, we're back to the intangible, right? I mean, that's what we're talking about. We're selling an intangible product, and I think the biggest thing. When you're talking to people, and again, I break this rule a lot, but I've gotten a lot better about it. But let them talk, right? Let them talk. They will tell you. Your merchants will tell you, the pain that they're having, and some of the things that are a problem, like you said, like order, taking orders, or the fact that they're so unorganized, or whatever the case may be. So I just think that you have to just lead them into talking, and if you're sitting there and you're like saying to yourself, like self, they're doing all the talking, I think you're winning, right? I think you're winning. If you're the guy doing all the talking, you're probably losing, because you're only going to hold, one of the things about the agents that we recruit now, I get them to get on the, watch the videos and stuff. And Danny's going to laugh at this, but, our videos used to be so much longer, right, than they are now. Some of them are still kind of long, but the reason we did that is because nobody's going to sit there for half an hour and watch a video on how to fill out an application, right? I mean, especially sales guys. So again, I just think that you have to lead them into talking. And when like you said, Nate, when I went up to that merchant up in Milford, they're doing $250,000 a month with me, and we sat around the table, and there were 8 of them and 1 of me. I hardly talked. I mean, I let them talk, and then I came in and talked and said, okay, you know what? Let's do this. I don't know if I can do any of it. Why don't we just give me a statement? Let me just take it back to my people. They're a lot smarter than I am, and we'll meet back here, 2 Thursdays from now, because that's when they have their meetings, their board meetings, and that's what I did. And then when I got back there with the statement, then it was a done deal.
Danny, what do you think? With a lot of our partners, I hear this often, that they get to a yes, but then they don't get signed paperwork or filled out applications that can get approved and get going. Because the end of the day, a yes is not a close. A yes is simply an intent to close. What would you say are the steps that are helpful to making sure that you're ready to get that paperwork filled out, have an app submit link ready? What are the things that our partners maybe are missing out on and getting that, from turning that yes into a signed account and an activated account?
Yeah, whenever and Brian's one of the best at this, right? Always be prepared, right? When you're in these conversations and you get to that yes, the next step you always need to be ready, right? And it can be, have a paper application ready, have your online application, know your processes, right? Know how you need to do things to submit paperwork and submit applications on the fly. You've always got to be ready to do that. If the merchant's not quite ready yet, you need to set a time and really kind of constantly follow through with that until that yes becomes a signed application. Also, understand your underwriting process, understanding the requirements. What I find is happens quite often is a partner will sign a very good deal, but might not get a lot of the required paperwork that we're going to need, maybe because they do really high tickets, or just the general type of business could be considered restricted, or they might need some additional information in order to get it approved. Knowing that up front can help you create a really smooth underwriting process as well. But always be prepared, right? When that merchant says yes, great, let's start the application right now. And if they say, oh, wait, I need to get all my stuff in order, say, great, can I come back tomorrow at 9 o'clock? You always have to be ready like that. But in best case scenario, when they say yes, you're ready. Let's get this thing in, and let's start the boarding process as soon as possible.
All right, as we finish up, the close is the close is the close. It's about finishing the line. It's not how you start, it's how you finish when it comes to sales, because you can get as many conversations started, you can get as many leads into your funnel, but unless they're actually turning into activated merchants, it's not a close. It's not an end deal. It's not something that actually provides you value or provides value to the merchants. Brian, Danny, closing remarks on making sure that you are closing. A lot of closings there. When you are part of the sales process, what would you say? What are your last tips, tricks, or things to avoid when it comes to making sure that you're getting activated merchants at the end of the day because they've signed up with you? Brian?
Again, Nate, you and I discussed a little bit before we got on here, but with the residuals that partners are making now, with cash discounting and the bonuses that we're paying now, especially pay anywhere bonuses, the 12 times, the 14 times multiplier. You guys, we're making like so much more than we used to make, and I've always been a believer. Like, okay, if you're having trouble, closing a deal, okay, it's a $50,000 merchant. You're making $500 a month, right? You're making $300, $600 with dollars. You're making 12, 14 times. I mean, why not? Why not? Hey, you know what? We're running a special this month. If you sign up with me today, I can write you a check for $500. Sounds like a lot, okay? But if you're making a $500 a month residual, it's just it's a little another trick of the trade if you're having trouble closing deals. And I know everybody's out there shaking their head. I'm not giving away $500. Are you really giving it away? I don't think you're giving it away. I think you're getting yourself $500 12 times. You're making 6 grand in residuals. You're giving one away. Okay, I'll take it.
Absolutely. And Danny, your closing remarks?
I've got to refer back to the rule, and we're going to keep building on them as well. But rule number 6 is don't argue with yes. And I think as
Right.
salespeople, like you heard Brian say, his old tactic would sometimes be to just keep talking and talking and talking and almost beat them down to where they're like, okay, I'm exhausted. Where do I sign to get you out of my office, kind of thing, right? And that's one approach for sure. But whenever you get to the point in the conversation that the merchant says, this all sounds great, let's get going forward. Yes, I want to work with you. Then that's where you stop talking and just move forward with the application, right? I think what we often see as well is that it's very easy for us salespeople to continue talking about what we're passionate about and what we know about. And that can sometimes get us in trouble after we've already gotten the agreement from the merchant, right? We might uncover something that didn't even need to be discussed that could cause them to have cold feet, even after they've already said that yes word to move forward with you. So don't argue with yes. Make sure to close and make sure to be prepared to close. And also, hey, it's the end of we've already finished April. It's the beginning of May, and we're already one weekend. It's flying by, and summer's right around the corner. We're excited.
That's right, everybody. This has been a high five. We're going to make it bridged. We've got work to do. We've got things to get back in, and you've got deals to close. But the deals are going. The momentum is building. The numbers are continuing to go up and to the right. And so we want to see you continuing to grow, make those deals, keep those closes on. And thank you for watching the high five today. I saw about 7 of you that were on live when we were on about a half an hour later than we usually are. We're always trying to be on around about 10:10. We've got some tech issues. We're always trying to figure this out. But you can always subscribe. Go to mypapertech.com and you can subscribe right there. There's a Spotify link. There is a Google link, and we're trying to get an Apple podcast. Apple's keeping us slow, but you can always subscribe to the high five so you can get this into your inbox every week. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next time. High five, everybody. We'll see you guys. Have a good one.